Have you ever prayed and felt like heaven was silent? Have you ever believed and still watched the situation get worse? Have you ever thought, God, if you had just shown up earlier, this wouldn't have happened? Today, we're talking about one of the most emotional stories in the Bible, the story of Lazarus. And this story asks a difficult question. What do you do when God shows up late? Part 1. The crisis. Lazarus was sick, not just slightly ill. This was serious. He lived in Bethany with his sisters Mary of Bethany and Martha. This family wasn't distant from Jesus. They were close friends of Jesus Christ. Scripture makes it clear, Jesus loved them. That's important. Because sometimes we think delays mean distance, but love was never absent in this story. When Lazarus became critically ill, the sisters sent a message to Jesus. Lord, the one you love is sick. Notice what they didn't say. They didn't beg. They didn't panic in their message. They simply reminded him of the relationship. They believed that was enough. Surely he would come immediately. Surely he would hurry. Surely he would heal. But then something shocking happened. Jesus stayed where he was. 2 more days. No rush, no urgency, no explanation. Part 2. The silence that hurts. Put yourself in their position. Every hour Lazarus gets weaker. Every breath becomes harder, and Jesus hasn't arrived. You check the road, nothing. You listen for footsteps, nothing. You pray, still nothing. Then the unthinkable happens. Lazarus dies. Can you imagine the questions? Why didn't he come? Doesn't he care? We sent word, and this is where many of us live. In the space between promise and manifestation, between prayer and answer, between faith and fulfillment, when God seems late. Part 3. The arrival after the funeral. Be the time Jesus finally arrives in Bethany. Lazarus has been dead for days. 4 days, not for minutes, not 4 hours, for days. In that culture, burial happened quickly. The funeral was over. The mourners had gathered. The stone had been rolled in place. Hope was sealed behind it. When Martha hears that Jesus is coming, she runs out to meet him. And she says the words many of us have whispered, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. That sentence carries faith and disappointment at the same time. She still calls him Lord, but she's hurting. She believes in his power, but she questions his timing. Have you ever been there? Believing, but disappointed. Trusting, but confused. Part 4. The tension between faith and religious response to Martha. Your brother will rise again. Martha answers with theology. I know he will rise again in the resurrection at the last day. In other words, yes, someday, but she wasn't expecting today. She had moved her hope into the future, and many of us do the same. When God doesn't move when we expect, we shrink our expectations. We lower our hope. We prepare ourselves for permanent loss. Then Jesus makes a powerful declaration. I am the resurrection and the life. Not I will be, not I can bring. He says, I am. Resurrection isn't just an event. It's a person, and that person was standing right in front of her. Part 5. The tears of Jesus. One Mary of Bethany comes out to meet him. She says the same words. Lord, if you had been here, the pain in the house is heavy. Mourners are crying. The sisters are grieving. And then something extraordinary happens. Jesus weeps, the Son of God, the one who knew he was about to raise Lazarus, still cried. Why? Because delay does not mean indifference. God feels what you feel. He sees the funeral. He hears the sobbing. He understands the disappointment, even when he plans to fix it. Part 6. The stone. Jesus goes to the tomb. It's a cave with a stone laid across the entrance. He says, take away the stone. Martha immediately protests. Lord, by this time there is a bad odor, for he has been there 4 days. In other words, it's too late. It's too far gone. It's beyond repair. And that's exactly where God does his best work. When logic says impossible, When time says expired, when people say move on. Jesus says, "Did I not tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God?" Notice this. They had to roll the stone away. God will do the miracle. But sometimes you have to move the obstacle. You have to remove doubt. Remove fear. Remove pride. Remove the barrier. Part 7. The capstone is rolled away. The tomb is open. Silence fills the air. Jesus prays publicly, not because he needs to, but so they will believe. Then he shouts, "Lazarus, come out," and what happens next is beyond imagination. A man who had been dead for 4 days walks out, still wrapped in grave clothes, alive, breathing, restored. The delay was not denial. The delay was for a greater display. If Jesus had arrived earlier, he would have healed a sick man. But by arriving late, he revealed resurrection power. Sometimes God allows a situation to die, so he can resurrect it in a way that leaves no doubt it was him. Part 8. When God feels late in your life, maybe you're watching a dream decay, a relationship fall apart, a career stall, a prayer unanswered, and it feels like God missed the deadline. But what if he's not late? What if he's setting the stage for something bigger? If Jesus had come when they expected, they would have seen healing. But because he came when they didn't expect, they saw glory. There's a difference. Healing fixes, glory transforms. Part 9. Lessons from the tumor are 3 powerful lessons from Lazarus. 1. God's delay is not his absence. Jesus loved them and still delayed. Love does not eliminate waiting. 2. Your situation is not too far gone, 4 days dead, still not beyond his voice. 3. The tomb is not the end, a place you think is over, maybe the stage for your greatest testimony. Part 10. Unwrap him after Lazarus comes out. Jesus says, "Unbind him and let him go." Resurrection is one thing, freedom is another. Sometimes God brings you out, but you're still wrapped in fear, still wrapped in insecurity, still wrapped in old mindsets. God calls you out of the grave, but you must let go of the grave clothes. Closing. Your Lazarus moment. What is your Lazarus? What feels buried? What feels sealed? What feels for days too late? Hear this clearly. If God hasn't spoken the final word, it's not over. He specializes in late arrivals that become legendary miracles. When he shows up late, it's because he's planning something greater than you imagined. The sisters thought they needed healing, but they received resurrection. You think you need a quick answer. God may be preparing a glory story. Music begins to rise when God shows up late. It's not because he forgot. It's not because he failed. It's not because he doesn't care. It's because the miracle he has in mind requires the tomb to be sealed first. So hold on. Keep believing. Keep trusting. Because when he calls your name, even death has to answer. End screen. Soft music fades when God shows up late. He shows up powerful.